Why would anyone intentionally pay more in income taxes?
Welcome to Cup of Bull. My name is Michael Dunham. With me today is Patrick Fontana, founder of Fontana Financial Planning.
Cheers, Michael.
Cheers. So to dive a little bit deeper into your question, I want to specifically bring up what we want to discuss today, which is the idea of Roth conversion. So to start, why don't you go ahead and share with the audience, what is a Roth conversion?
So when you have pre-tax money, generally in a 401k or IRA rollover from an old 401k plan where you put away money pre-tax, you do owe income taxes on it. And you have the most accepted kind of old school way to do it is just wait till you have to take it out, which the age is getting pushed older and older, but in your 70s and you're forced to take the money out, the government says how much you have to take out. If you see that train coming and you've built up enough money that you owe taxes on, it's smart in a lot of cases to decide I'm going to take this money and make it tax-free by converting it to Roth, in which case you pay the income tax. And deciding on that number is where we add some kind of art to that science.
Right. The way that I like to think about it is shifting the mindset from how do I minimize my tax bill this year to how do I minimize the lifetime tax bill on this bucket of money. And you mentioned required distributions are one of those, what we would say are forced income events that oftentimes, especially, when we think about retirees, that's a big group of people who often it may make sense to do a Roth conversion of some sort. You work a job or you own a business and you have a high income throughout the course of your career, and then you either sell your business or you retire. You take a job where you make a lot less money, and all of a sudden your income drops significantly. We call it the retirement tax planning window, where there is often a number of years before these what we call forced income events happen. So required distributions is a big one. And a lot of times what we'll see is somebody does a really good job of saving their entire career, but all they do is they just save pre-tax. And so they have a $2 million, $3 million IRA or 401k, but all of that money is pre-tax money. And when they reach these required minimum distribution ages, they'll be forced to take a significant amount out, oftentimes more than is needed. And when you add that on top of Social Security, possibly a pension, what we find is there's this kind of window where income drops significantly, and then income may actually go up just as high as it was when you were working, or even higher depending on your situation. And that's oftentimes where it can make sense to kind of capitalize on this window. Patrick, can you talk about any other scenarios that somebody may be in where it may make sense to convert money to Roth, or even just contribute money to Roth instead of pre-tax?
Sure. So part of this is just life situation. I've seen a few times where somebody's income drops substantially. One client went back to grad school and was making a lot of money. Literally, income dropped to nothing while they did a couple of years of school, career change. Eventually, income came back significantly, but that was a window of opportunity to go in there and make that kind of a tax move. So when you see fluctuation from year to year in both directions, it affects your tax decisions. If you know, for example, that this year I'm going to make less money than going forward, well, hey, this window could be used this year. The reverse happens where you get a big bonus or sell a business or have some big income year where that's a time not to do it. But we can lay out the tax pyramid, as we call it, the tax rates, and Michael's does a great job of kind of mirroring out what's the number, what really makes sense. We can really accurately say, this is a tax bill to expect on this. And then when we do those, it's good to set aside that money so you're not shocked with the tax bill a few months later.
The other thing I'll bring up is I found a lot of times people think linearly. And what I mean by that is they think about their current situation just into perpetuity. And the reality is, if you have a husband and wife who have retired, one of them is going to outlive the other one. And as we'll see on that tax bracket pyramid, when you move over from the married side to the single side, the thresholds to get bumped up into higher tax brackets are much lower. For most of the brackets, they're half of what they are on the married side. But those required distributions that we were talking about before, they don't go down at all. they remain the same or close to the same. You also keep the higher Social Security benefit in most cases. If you have a pension, you may still have pension income, where a lot of times we see one spouse passes away and then the other spouse all of a sudden finds himself in a significantly higher tax bracket than what they were in before. And then, the other consideration is when both spouses are gone and that money gets passed on to the next generation. Typically, that next generation has a 10-year window in which they have to take that money out. It's not uncommon that this sort of inheritance happens when the next generation is 40s, 50s, 60s in their highest income earning years. And then they're forced to take out sometimes significant pre-tax money on top of their other income, and can get forced into higher rates than the couple was paying beforehand.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, one window of opportunity that we've had virtually every year, one case happened like this where retired couple, husband typically passes first and the wife is all of a sudden a widow. That 1 year that they are still in the married filing jointly, we've gone in and done some significant conversions because it's at a better tax situation than we already know it will be next year, right? So that's a thing to note, friends, family that have that situation. It's a calendar year thing that can be done during the year of passing where you're still in that favorable income tax situation. So it's something to take advantage of. When you look at this and someone comes to you, Michael, and says, hey, should I convert? Yes or no? And then how much should I convert? What's your first move? What are you looking for to see if what makes sense for them to do and how much to make sense?
Yeah. So we always start with the tax return, right? And that's where, in my opinion, you can't offer great guidance in this area unless you know all of the moving parts. And that's where the tax return can become so valuable. So we start with the tax return. From there, we can manipulate any adjustments we know are going to happen. So, for example, somebody was working last year and now they've retired, we can remove the income from their job and kind of see where are they going to be tax wise now that that income has gone away. And so we start with the tax return, then we look at the projections that we've made. So we know, Social Security may start at 70 and here's the expected income that Social Security is going to provide. If there's a pension, same thing. Required distributions, we know kind of based on what they have right now, a reasonable expectation of what that may look like at different points in their lives. We know if they're charitable, to know if there may be an opportunity to do something like a qualified charitable distribution where they can gift from their retirement account directly to a charity tax-free. So we kind of know the different levers that we can pull. And then from there, we're able to project out and see, hey, based off everything that we know is going to happen this year, we anticipate you're going to have X income. And maybe that puts you in the 24% bracket. And we can kind of model in, and we expect you to have about $100,000 of room before you hit the top of the 24% bracket. So, it may or may not make sense depending on the overall situation, but let's say it made sense to capitalize on the full 24% bracket if we have the opportunity to. That's where we can model in and say, hey, let's convert $100,000. We know that the tax bill is going to be 24% of that. We can set aside $24,000 of money that's not in a retirement account to be ready to cover the tax bill when the time comes. And then next year, we'll look at this year's tax return, kind of sharpen the pencil on, was there anything else that's changed now, and repeat on down the road.
Yeah, we like to, on our one-page financial plans, there's an asset location section, which has red, black, and gray. And the red is what you owe income tax on. The black is tax-free Roth money, right? So we like to turn red to black. That's a good thing. To summarize, the three main opportunities, the three main times when you want to do this is when there's variability in income both ways, either income significantly less this year than next year. When somebody's in that retirement window, retiring in their 60s where they've still got some time before they have to take Social Security and the required distributions turn on. And when there is death of a spouse and you're going to be in the single rate the next year, that's a window of opportunity that year. Let's toast here to our rebalance with discipline.
I've got a new one for us today too.
Okay.
Minimize lifetime tax bills.
Yes.
Cheers.
Cheers.